I am Leo's first wife. He loved me more than his own future, even retired early to save me from injury. Everyone says I married the best man in the world, but just 3 years into our marriage, I caught him with another woman at a prenatal checkup. He said, I lost everything for Linda, but she doesn't even want to have a child for me, too selfish. Leo cheated on me with his diehard fan, a woman who would never disrespect him, a woman willing to leave behind countless offspring for him. I terminated the surrogacy, which I had prepared for half a year, promising to use all my connections to help Leo recover and gain popularity. The only condition I set was for him to sign the divorce agreement. I restore your future, you give back my freedom. Seems fair enough. That man who didn't shed a tear even during an avalanche cried like a child in front of me. Today I am at the hospital for a routine checkup. I almost thought I was wrong when I noticed an affectionate couple above the escalator. The tall man was my husband Leo. The petite but plump woman was Shirley, the journalist who used to always pester Leo. Seeing Shirley's slightly bulging belly and her face full of happiness, they headed to the obstetrics and gynecology department. I immediately realized that Leo might be accompanying her for her prenatal checkup today. They were not friends by any means, so there was no such thing as a coincidental encounter. I suppressed my anxiety and silently followed them. Until they sat down in the waiting area, Leo's hand naturally rested on Shirley's belly. Everything seemed crystal clear. Leo, he was cheating. I knew I should burst out and expose their secret, leaving no room for mercy. But there was still a glimmer of hope in my heart. What if it was all just a misunderstanding? I sat down behind Leo and Shirley, 2 rows apart, ensuring I wouldn't be noticed but could still hear their conversation. Shirley's voice was sweet. She complained about how nauseated she felt, wanting to eat sweet and sour oranges, and had already picked out several names for the baby for Leo to choose from. I like to drink hot cocoa, so if it's a girl, how about naming her Coco? I'm so bad at coming up with boys' names. I've been thinking for days and still haven't found one I like. Leo, would you pick one for me? Leo smirked and casually mentioned a name, Lucas. Hearing that name, the determination I had built up in my heart suddenly dissipated. That was the name he had prepared for our future children, and now, he was giving it to someone else. Shirley was delighted, asking Leo if he would still care for her and the baby once I got pregnant. Linda and I won't have a child. Because of her, I've lost everything, but Linda takes birth control pills every day. She's not even willing to have a child for me. Leo's tone was mocking, pausing before asking Shirley, do you think she's too selfish? Shirley smiled obediently and didn't pursue the topic further. My nails were already digging deep into my flesh. When I left home this morning, Leo held me close and kissed me gently. But now I heard him calling me selfish. After Leo accompanied Shirley into the examination room, I got up to see my attending physician. After the checkup, the doctor was very surprised. Linda, your follicles are growing nicely this month. We should be able to retrieve viable ones. Congratulations. I've changed my mind. I looked at the black and white images on the report. I'm not doing the surrogacy anymore. Did Leo think I was unwilling to have a child because I was taking birth control pills? He was wrong. I had planned on doing the surrogacy, wanting to fulfill his wishes. But now, I've changed my mind. The side effects of the pills made me dizzy and nauseous, so I decided to head home early to rest. Leo was already back. He used to be a professional tennis player but retired after injuring his wrist while rescuing me from an avalanche on vacation and never saw other work. Isn't the company busy today, getting home so early? Leo was watching a game. Even if he glanced up, he would have seen my pale and sickly complexion. I didn't have the strength to argue with him now. I just wanted to lie down for a while. But I underestimated the adverse effects of the medication. As soon as I lay down, I started to retch violently due to intense nausea. Linda, what's wrong with you? Where does it hurt? Leo heard the sound and rushed into the room. His nervous and eager demeanor seemed genuine. But when Leo saw the pillbox that had fallen next to the bed, his concern turned into anger. If you're so unwilling to have a child, I won't touch you again, okay? You won't need to sneakily take these things anymore. Leo kicked the trash can towards me and stormed out, slamming the door. I bit my lip, opened the bedside table. There were empty and unopened pill packets inside. During the most painful times of the ovulation induction, I had considered giving up. If we didn't have a child, would Leo divorce me? But every time he described our child's features in his mind, I couldn't bear to disappoint him. Let's hang in there a little longer. Both Leo and our marriage need this surprise. But reality gave me a harsh reality check. I threw the pillbox and my last struggle into the trash can. I won't need them anymore. As I hadn't eaten anything all day due to the nausea, I had already ordered fresh fruits from the supermarket on my way home. I had ordered a full 4 pounds of oranges, the new ones that had just arrived in the store. I got out of bed and walked into the kitchen, opened the fridge. I noticed that all the fruits were there, except for the oranges. No, not entirely gone. There was one shriveled one left for me. I remember Leo had gone to the kitchen before leaving. His voice sounded like he was in there. Did he just take the oranges that I wanted to eat because Shirley is pregnant and wanted to have them? The dual nausea, both physical and emotional, overwhelmed me. I rushed into the bathroom, purging all the pain, grievances, and tears of the day. Earlier, Shirley had also asked Leo when she would take over the role of Mrs. Leo. Why didn't he just agree to her in one go? I don't want it anymore. I had intended to go back to bed, rest well, gain strength to deal with what was coming. But as I walked past the TV stand, I suddenly stopped. At the highest point, there used to be a photo of Leo and me holding a trophy, now replaced by an interview photo of Leo and Shirley. Waking up in pain, I realized that what can warm you can also burn you. Leo's change of heart was evident long before. I was just too slow to catch on. When Leo was still a popular athlete in the country, Shirley, as a sports reporter, stuck to him like glue. Whether it was during competitions, training, or even vacations, Shirley had connections through her father, always getting insider information. She paid too much attention to Leo's private life, and during my time as Leo's assistant, we clashed many times. Shirley controlled valuable resources in the sports circle and could pull in numerous endorsements with a snap of her fingers if she wanted to. But Leo, knowing my feelings, would avoid Shirley's interviews whenever possible. He always said, the most annoying journalist among so many is Shirley. She only chases after popularity, doesn't understand sports at all, and talking to her is just a waste of time. Aren't you afraid she'll dig up your past scandals? I joked casually, but it made Leo seriously contemplate for 3 minutes. He hugged me, his smile genuine. I have no exes all over social media, no hidden relationships, only you, Linda. Leo himself was synonymous with popularity. He rose to fame at a young age, winning men's singles Grand Slam titles in Asia for consecutive years. But Shirley wasn't chasing after popularity, she was chasing after him. When Leo got injured and his morale plummeted, family and friends advised him to prioritize his health and retire early. His competition winnings and endorsement fees were more than enough to last for several lifetimes. You need to think about Linda, even if not for yourself. You can't keep making her accompany you in training and competitions forever. That's right, you two will eventually settle down and start a family. Leo was convinced. He proposed to me at the hospital bed and promised to be a family man for life. Our wedding was simple, elegant, and the happiness infected all the guests present. The only unwelcome guest was Shirley, bursting in and throwing the newspaper that featured Leo's retirement announcement on the ground. Leo, you could have gone higher, further, to the top of the world. Retiring now is cowardly. Watching Leo's trembling gaze quickly return to calm, I breathed a sigh of relief deep down. I feared Leo might regret his choice between me and his future. It was only when he held my hand and vowed firmly that day that I finally felt reassured. But maybe from that day onwards, Leo's feelings toward Shirley were no longer merely hatred. For the past 3 years, he resisted all sports-related activities and interviews. Only Shirley could breach that defense line. 6 months ago, Leo collaborated with her for a post-retirement interview, which garnered over 1 billion views online. On the day of the broadcast, I sat beside him in front of the TV. Leo watched Shirley on the screen, his eyes filled with a smile. Maybe she could indeed become the top sports journalist in the country. Was that the moment when they got together? Or maybe even earlier? In the empty living room, feeling unwell, I climbed onto a stool and threw the photo frame into the trash. At this point, being fixated on a photo really had no meaning. What made me feel uncomfortable was that it was over. I could have confessed and let go honestly. Yet Leo treated me like a fool. After finding out Shirley had removed me from her blocked list on social media, I scrolled through all her posts shared in the last 6 months. She was on vacation there half a year ago, holding on to a man's waist tightly while riding a beach motorcycle. The contrast between her fair skin and his tan was striking. Only you can give me a strong sense of security. I recognized at a glance that the man was wearing the vacation leisure outfits I personally designed for Leo, each one of a kind. It was true that Leo went for a former teammate's wedding, and when I was working overtime, he did go to see Shirley. 3 months ago, Shirley was hospitalized in a coma, with a man holding her hand by the bedside all night. It was a false alarm. Turns out we were expecting a baby. On that day, with heavy rain pouring citywide, I got stranded in a tunnel. Water rose from my calves to my chest, my body temperature dropping. I couldn't reach Leo on the phone, unsure of his safety. Later, Leo casually explained that he went trekking with friends and had no signal, brushing it off swiftly. Even though he knew I had to send the car for repairs after it got flooded, he never asked how I felt when I was alone. 5 days ago was Shirley's birthday. Unfortunately, severe morning sickness prevented her from eating any of the cake. What a waste. But later, Leo brought the leftover cake to me with a smile. No flowers, no gifts. Yeah, I was joyous the whole night because he remembered our 3rd wedding anniversary. But the cake was a leftover, and Leo's emotions seemed like leftovers, too. How absurd must I have looked in his eyes. Leo had mentioned wanting kids more than once. I knew my body the best. Despite the outward appearance, internally, I was riddled with issues. The doctor had warned me that even with medical assistance, having our own child would be extremely challenging. I spent 2 years rehabilitating my body and half a year preparing for IVF. I suffered in secret. I didn't want Leo to have a false sense of joy due to an uncertain outcome. Yet he used this as an excuse to have an affair and blamed me for not providing him with a perfect family. He saved me in an avalanche, retired early due to injury, making life imperfect. Perhaps that was his deepest regret in his heart. Tonight, due to my physical condition, I found a good release. I couldn't eat or drink. All my strength was used to push the tears out of my body. I allowed myself to indulge for just 1 day. Starting tomorrow, my weakness must never again become a weapon against me. Just that I didn't expect Leo, after getting upset and accompanying Shirley, to return tonight. The spring night was chilly, but his body temperature was scorching, and when he came close, I realized what Leo wanted. Linda, I shouldn't have been mean to you, shouldn't have said hurtful things. You're busy with the company, not wanting children. I won't push you anymore in the future. Leo's kiss was filled with urgency. To be precise, Shirley was pregnant, and he came back to me with an unsolvable desire. In the past, it was always Leo taking precautions, but later, I started taking contraceptive pills. He seemed to accept the temporary decision of not having children. Still, he was unreasonable in bed. He insisted on me begging for mercy before he relented, feeling victorious and ending it. Tonight, Leo was unusually gentle. He seemed not to notice my avoidance and resistance, patiently chasing after me. A sweet kiss that should have been. At this moment, there was a sour and bitter taste, stirring up nothing but unpleasant memories. I didn't fall into Leo's trap of lust. I was clear-headed, clear enough to immediately recognize the taste of oranges. Leo never ate citrus fruits. The scent on him could only have come from another woman who had just eaten an orange, Shirley. Just thinking about the two of them alone together, thinking that Leo's tenderness today was because of Shirley. Every muscle in my body tensed up, radiating rejection, my voice a bit hoarse. Leo, I'm not feeling well today. Why don't you go sleep in the guest room? Leo remained unmoved until I turned my head aside and repeated it. I could feel him looking at me, scrutinizing me, his eyes shifting from confusion to displeasure. Finally, Leo chuckled, turned over and got out of bed. Linda, what's gotten into you? I said, if you don't want kids, I won't force you. Are you nagging because I didn't take precautions? Fine. I'll do as you say. Leo pulled out the drawer of the bedside table and emptied the contraceptive items onto the bed. He was both compromising and assertive. From acquaintance, to dating, to marriage, it had been a total of 8 years. Only now, at this moment, did I truly see the man in front of me. Because I saw so clearly, I couldn't accept it. I was even more angry, as if pouring my affection on a dog. Get out! I grabbed a pillow and smashed it hard on his face. I wanted to take off the ring and throw it away, but it was stuck on my ring finger and wouldn't budge. After the lust faded, Leo's eyes grew slightly dim. He didn't say a word, suppressed his anger, packed his bags until the suitcase was full. Linda, don't ask me to come back. This time, Leo didn't slam the door. The outside suddenly fell silent, as if no one had left. But I knew Leo must have gone. He always had more than one choice, just like 3 years ago. Leo wasn't someone who had nowhere to go. I made a wrong turn when attending a university party and accidentally met Leo. He was a tennis star at a young age, with almost no friends except teammates and coaches. He was training in another city on his birthday, and could only listen to birthday songs alone in a karaoke. I was a homebody in the design institute, not interested in sports, and didn't know Leo. If not for my roommate's insistence, I wouldn't have made the trip. In the dim box, the lonely birthday song playing on a loop, the flickering candles, and a man making a wish with no expectation on his face. It made me want to comfort him inexplicably. I had only enough to get him through his birthday. I carefully sat next to him and picked up the microphone. I was so nervous that I went off key after just one line of the accompaniment. The man opened his eyes, and a spark lit up in his eyes, like fireworks blooming just for one person. His voice was so unrealistically melodious. "Can you finish singing this birthday song for me? Just grant my wish." It was the first time I had been so easily captivated by someone. I was at a loss. After stumbling through the song, I left the scene in a hurry. Little did I know, the person I met by chance would show up at my school in a high-profile manner a few days later. He held up roses towards me on the stairs. When the man raised his head, his handsome face instantly set the campus on fire. "Hello, classmate. I'm Leo. Can I ask you to be my girlfriend?" I forgot how to react. While still trying to determine if it was reality or a dream, my roommate pushed me into his arms. From that day on, Leo, the youngest winner of a Grand Slam tennis tournament in Asia, became my boyfriend. He bought a house and settled in my city. We officially announced our relationship in the 3rd month. He rejected all entertainment-related shows. The most touching thing Leo ever said was that me showing up unexpectedly on his 20th birthday was enough to fill all his past, present, and future regrets. His life was complete because of me. Until the accident 3 years ago, Leo chose to retire and proposed to me instead of going back to the World Tennis Championship. From that moment on, my presence in his life became a regret. He imposed the weight of his life on me without thinking about whether it was fair. He never considered that it wasn't fair to me. When Leo's not at home these days, I've adjusted my state of mind and met with lawyers several times. We discussed the property division issues that might be involved in divorcing Leo. I majored in fashion design. After graduating, I spent 2 years accompanying Leo in training and competitions, which gave me the opportunity to collaborate with many sports brands. After Leo retired, I started my own design studio. Within a year, the color-blocked casual sets I designed became popular items internationally. The dozens of square meters of the studio rapidly expanded to a whole floor of office space. At the end of last year, the company had moved into the city's most prestigious office building. I had suggested to Leo several times to come to the company and grow it together in a new field. Leo would rather go fishing, night riding, or off-roading with his former teammates. He even preferred playing games and studying cooking at home instead of coming to help me at the company. A year ago, when the company was looking for a spokesperson for a new brand, I gave up on sports stars with their own influence and persuaded Leo to do it. During the photo shoot in the studio, I caught a glimpse of the sparkle in Leo's eyes that I hadn't seen in a long time. He always missed his old life. If Leo wanted to go back to competing, I would definitely support him with all my might. But he just stared blankly at the younger generation on TV. Leo's private property belonged to him before our marriage, and we even notarized it when we got married. The lawyer said that the company was established after marriage and the profits were marital assets. Even though he had crossed the line by having an affair, it's difficult to separate him from the profits of the company. As long as the company is still running, it's hard for me to break up with Leo. I don't like beating around the bush, but I'm sure I have enough determination to fight a prolonged battle. I went to the hospital for a follow-up appointment according to schedule. The results were the same as always, not good but not too bad. Thinking about the advice from the lawyer, it would be best if I could get Leo to sign a document voluntarily waiving his share of the company's profits. How could he agree to that? Just like the accident 3 years ago, Leo only saw himself injured and losing his future. He never considered that I was also a victim. The physical and psychological pain I suffered was no less than Leo's. In addition to training for tennis, Leo was passionate about outdoor activities. During the 2 years I accompanied him to competitions around the world, I experienced everything from mountain climbing to scuba diving and skydiving with Leo. I'm a coward. Every time I watch Leo compete, I worry he might get hurt, let alone ask me to try these dangerous activities. Leo kept persuading me to share his love for extreme sports. I always gave in to him. 3 years ago, I went on vacation to Switzerland with Leo. Every year, he and his teammates would stay here for a month to enjoy skiing. After Leo taught me step by step, I mustered up the courage to stand on the freestyle slope for the first time. But that day, an avalanche, a rare event in the area, occurred. I was buried in heavy snow, facing low temperatures and lack of oxygen, with only about 10 minutes to survive. In the emergency, Leo didn't wait for the rescue team to arrive. After the avalanche stopped, he found my location first. The snow had frozen into hard chunks by that time. Without tools, Leo dug with his bare hands, creating a breathing passage for me. He made sure I held on until the rescue team arrived. Leo injured his wrist in the process. After experiencing the cold and lack of oxygen, I remained unconscious for days after returning home. Physical issues gradually surfaced. My menstruation became irregular, and the more I investigated, the worse it got. Doctors couldn't find a specific cause, only speculating it was related to the avalanche experience. At that time, during Leo's early retirement due to injury, He often watched replays of matches on TV in silence. I couldn't bear to burden him more with my health issues. I kept the checkups and traditional Chinese medicine a secret from him. I only told Leo it was to regulate my body's coldness, and he never doubted me. If you love me, Leo would say almost every day. But ultimately, people love themselves more. That's why they choose to turn a blind eye to others' pain selectively. I used to be understanding and tolerant towards Leo, but I have my limits. I won't give a second chance to those who hurt me. As soon as I stepped into the house and smelled the food, I was stunned for a moment. Leo was back. He had prepared a table full of dishes, each one of them the ones I used to request, and now he had learned to cook them. Leo can be quite proud. Over the years, whenever we argued, if he knew he was wrong, he would use a table full of dishes as an apology. I never intended to hold it against him, but this time was different. Leo pulled out a chair for me, and we sat facing each other, quietly having this meal. At first, he had a stiff expression, but when he saw me finish a whole bowl of rice, a hint of relief crossed his face. Let me serve you some more. You've lost weight without me cooking for you. I looked at him calmly. Leo, I'm full. Can we talk? If you had to choose between marriage and your future right now, what would you choose? Leo sat back down, the bottom of his bowl hitting the table with a muffled sound. Linda, what do you mean by that? Why should I choose? When I took out the divorce papers, Leo tensed up. No need to doubt. I knew if I handed him the document, he would just tear it up. Leo, I hope you can respect my decision. Read through the content first before making a decision. The focus of this document is to make Leo voluntarily give up all his interests in the company. As an exchange, I would provide resources for him, consultations with top doctors, rehabilitation teams, media exposure, to help Leo return to the world stage. Leo quickly flipped through it, then stared at the divorce title on the cover, chuckling coldly. Linda, now that you're successful in your career, you don't care about me anymore. I'm not interested in your company either. Care to share how long it took you to come up with this plan? You've really put in some effort. Leo tapped his forehead, as if suddenly understanding. No wonder you didn't want a child. I thought you were just focused on your career. But Linda, can't you treat me this way? Before Leo could question me, I took out a stack of photos from the envelope and threw them in front of him. Photos of Leo accompanying Shirley for prenatal checkups, the two of them happily shopping at a supermarket, embracing each other in the neighborhood, and so on. I was seeing these photos for the first time too. Shirley had always admired him, and Leo was content with that. The exposure of the affair only caused Leo a moment of panic. Then he calmly resorted to stubbornness and sophistry. Linda, I'm not with her. Don't even say you have no feelings for her. I interrupted Leo. They even have a child together. Such hypocritical words will only make me feel more disgusted. Leo fell silent, grabbed the wine on the table, and drank the whole glass in one go. Linda, all these years, I've supported whatever you wanted to do. I stay home every day simply wanting a child for company. Is that wrong? When you wanted me to retire and marry you, didn't I agree as well? Linda, one should not only think of themselves. It turns out Leo always felt that he was owed in the matter of marriage. Once, I also thought so. I worked hard not just for my own dreams. I also hoped to build a bigger stage for Leo, so that more people would remember his contributions to the sports world. Until I contacted the expert who treated Leo's injury in the past. He had traveled to Europe and America for Leo's injury, and consulted with many experts, conducting a comprehensive assessment. The chance of Leo returning to the competition through scientific treatment and rehabilitation was at least 50%, not as hopeless as he made it sound. Leo, did you really retire back then because you sincerely wanted to marry? Or were you using me as an excuse? You were actually afraid of stepping onto a bigger world stage, afraid of falling from grace and not being able to hold on to the existing honors, right? Leo's face turned pale, and I knew I'd hit the nail on the head. Leo, from today on, your life is no longer my responsibility. It's something you have to bear on your own. This report pushed Leo into a corner. He bumped into the display case and struggled to hold on to the trophies. Then, with a mocking smile, he grabbed a pen and signed the divorce agreement. After all this talk, it's just about getting a divorce. I'll grant you that. The next day, after completing the divorce formalities, Leo said he needed to go back for something. The house that we turned into mine during the marriage, he didn't want it. As soon as he came up from the garage, Shirley was waiting at the door, cradling her stomach, a hint of triumph showing on her face. Leo, being forgetful, asked me to help clean up. Linda, do you mind? Before I could respond, Leo rushed to open the door, taking Shirley into our former home. I clenched my fist, My breath hitched. There was a moment when I really wanted to rush in and tear apart the arrogant man and woman in front of me. But it would only make me look pitiful, with no real meaning. Leo and his friends seemed to have completely forgotten that I was standing at the door. Leo, can we not have sealed windows in our new home? I like fresh air. Get rid of these clothes. The designs are outdated. Look at these dusty trophies. If it were me, I'd definitely dust them every day. Leo laughed at something Shirley said and agreed to everything. All the clothes I designed for him, the birthday gifts I gave him, the carefully selected toiletries. Leo didn't keep a single one. He wasn't here to clean up. He was only here to trample on our relationship with malice, or perhaps on my feelings for him. Realizing that, the hands that almost suffocated me disappeared. I sent a few messages with my phone. Less than 10 minutes later, I walked into the house with a dozen people. Facing Leo's puzzled look, I smiled and explained. I've already instructed the agency to sell this house. They're all here to appraise the property. Before Leo could object, I gestured to the agency team. Leave the furniture layout in the rooms to the next homeowner. Sell if the price is right. After packing up my personal belongings, I entrusted the agency to handle everything else. I left in style, wiping away the moisture from the corners of my eyes just as the elevator door closed. It's not so easy to destroy your own home. But facing Leo and Shirley, I couldn't lose. As I arrived at the underground garage, Leo followed me out from the staircase. Linda, are you really this heartless? The emotions surged like tides, making me feel utterly defenseless. I just wanted to hide my vulnerability and leave this place quickly. My steps didn't stop, and my voice became even colder. Don't forget, in 30 days, come complete the remaining procedures. What if I don't leave? Leo stood in front of me. Linda, we promised to be together for a lifetime. I regret it. I don't want to leave. Shirley happened to come down the elevator from behind. She heard everything Leo said, yet I would be the one to pay the consequences. Linda, I've known Leo for 10 years, waited for him for 10 years. I will never give him back to you. Shirley pushed me towards the speeding car. When a sharp pain hit my abdomen, I saw all of Leo's shamelessness and paranoia turned into fear in his eyes, tearing him apart inside out. Now, maybe he's satisfied. Seeing the disappointment in Linda's eyes, I already regretted what I had done. When I tried to hold on to Linda, I realized how heartless I was. Before the doctors chased me out of the ward, I stood outside the door for a long time. After discarding all the excuses, I finally realized how despicable I had been. Before the World Championship, numerous fans were criticizing me. They analyzed that my skills and physical fitness were declining, and by quitting now, I would forever be the youngest Asian Grand Slam champion. Watching countless rising stars, I did indeed hesitate. When I first saved Linda, I didn't think about anything else. I just knew that every minute or even every second would increase her chances of survival. When the doctor told me about my hand injury and the need for rehab, my initial reaction was relief. What a good reason to retire. It sounds better to quit for love than for fear of challenges. But deep down, there was reluctance. When Shirley appeared at the wedding and said I should have reached the top of the world, I began to calculate what I gained and lost in my marriage with Linda. When busy people become Linda, I couldn't wait like she did. I would start overthinking, thinking about my former teammates' jokes, about Shirley's assurance, about Linda, wondering if she loved her career more or loved me more. The saying a woman settles down once she has children unexpectedly became my lifeline. I despicably wanted to weigh her down with the same responsibilities, believing that although we didn't need more money, a child could make our family and life perfect. But I couldn't convince Linda. As she grew busier, I ended up with Shirley. Shirley said she would do anything for me, even have a child out of wedlock. As long as I liked the child, she would have it. I knew Linda would eventually find out, thinking she would feel a sense of crisis, yell at me. We'd have a big argument, and she'd focus her attention back on me. Perhaps she would slow down and wait for me. But Linda chose to leave. She didn't want to give me a chance. Hearing the doctor talk about how much effort and attempts Linda had made over the years, the misunderstandings and intentional ignorance towards her these past 3 years felt like precise bullets hitting my body. Now, I didn't even have the courage to make a last attempt to keep her. Would Linda be happier if I let go? The car grazed past me, just a minor scratch. Leo, seeing me unconscious, asked the hospital for a full checkup. Coincidentally, I had been treated at this hospital for over 2 years, and the chief doctor came to explain the examination results personally. Now Leo knew everything. Leo must realize how much of a jerk he had been. He wanted to repent, to make amends, but I didn't want to give him a chance. Waking up to see my parents beside me, the first thing I told them was that Leo had cheated, and that we were getting a divorce. I didn't want to see him. Leo was kicked out. To prevent him from continuing to pester me in the hospital, I had my assistant leak the news of Leo's comeback to the familiar media. In an instant, Leo became the subject of cameras wherever he went, experiencing constant chaos. He knew it was me who had done it, and he could only sensibly keep his distance. With no worries about him, I focused on my hospitalization and attempted physical therapy. When a person makes a decision to treat themselves kindly, it's as if the whole world has turned on a green light. After the first treatment, the chief doctor brought good news that my body was significantly improving. During this time, Leo also started preparing to return to the game. Through the evaluations, it was determined that his old injuries were no longer a hindrance. He just needed strength and skill training to be able to return to the field at any time. Keeping my promise, I had the company coordinate various resources for him. Whether it was interviews or variety shows, Leo was open to all offers. Whenever asked about his feelings, he would confidently repeat in front of the camera, "Leo only loves Linda in this lifetime." I stopped believing it a long time ago. Maybe the only one trapped by this lie is Leo himself. Leo messages me every day. He says he has completely cut ties with Shirley, and they've aborted the child. He tells me he bought our old house, wanting to preserve the beautiful past that might otherwise shatter into fragments. Leo also tells me to take good care of myself, promising to come begging for forgiveness with the most prestigious trophy in hand. It's absurd, isn't it? At this point, Leo still can't see the difference between Shirley and me. Who can enter my heart has never been some genius tennis player. It's the man who offered help, with light in his eyes. On the last day of the cooling-off period, I arranged to meet Leo. He took off his baseball cap, trying to show concern for my health. When I didn't respond, he awkwardly turned his face away. "We can discuss anything except divorce." I consulted a lawyer, and the court might consider my decision to stop the affair voluntarily, so divorce is not certain. I splashed water all over Leo. He had a slight redness in the corner of his eyes, his voice hoarse as he grabbed my hand. "Linda, everyone makes mistakes. Employees leak confidential drafts, competitors plagiarize works, and you can forgive each other. I just took the wrong path once. I promise not to do it again. Be fair to me. Forgive me this time, can you?" I stared at Leo until he guiltily lowered his eyes. "It's not the same." I pulled back my hand, wiped off the water stains with a tissue. "I can't forgive you, Leo. Whether leaking drafts or plagiarizing works, the main consequences are personal for them, secondary for the company. The company can endure the business risks, but the cost of forgiving Leo falls on me personally. Why should I spend the rest of my life endorsing Leo's promises? Why?" Leo clenched his fists until they turned white, and suddenly tears fell on the back of his hand. "It seems like I always choose the wrong path. If I agree to divorce now, that might be the most regrettable choice of my life. Linda, will you regret it?" "Regret is a compromise with one's weakness. I will learn not to compromise." I shook my head. The ring that was hard to take off before now easily slipped off, and a weight was lifted off my heart. "Leo, what are you truly obsessed with? Me, this relationship, or the self who backed off initially? You fear not achieving the achievements of a 16-year-old at 26, using injury and love as legitimate excuses to retreat. Your injuries have healed over these years, ready to return to competitions at any time. But seeing one after another shining brightly on the world stage, you backed off again. Leo, wrong is wrong. I admit that 3 years ago, I was too trusting of love, and I fell into a trap. When I think about it now, our feelings died the moment you used love to deceive yourself and propose to me. You lost, and I didn't win. Let go. I pushed the ring in front of Leo, stood up. Meet me at the Civil Affairs Bureau tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. I return your future, you return my freedom. That's fair. When the time comes to process our divorce, Leo showed up. He bought that house at double the market price but chose not to transfer it. I knew Leo only wanted to make himself feel better through compensation, but I had no reason to refuse either. Leo calmly processed the papers with me, said goodbye at the door. I pretended not to see Leo still wearing the same clothes as yesterday, not noticing the silent pleas in his eyes. Not all wishes should be granted. Not all expectations are worth responding to. Ending all this calmly now is good enough. My lead doctor recommended that I go to a hospital abroad for another 6 months of follow-up treatment. Luckily, the company was running smoothly, and I could manage 90% of the business through remote meetings. My parents were worried and insisted on accompanying me. Now, a journey of solo recovery has turned into a family excursion across several countries. Half a year flew by in an instant. The treatment ended, and my physical condition visibly improved. looking lighter and seemingly a couple of years younger. Shortly after booking my flight back home, the company's executive called to inform me of something. To be precise, the company's spokesperson, Leo, got into trouble. During this period, Leo made a strong comeback in the sports world. He overwhelmed seasoned competitors in various open tournaments, highly touted by the media as the one most likely to surpass the world's #1 in tennis. Just yesterday, at a press conference announcing his participation in the Australian Open, Shirley burst in. She was in hospital attire, looking haggard, with an line in her hand. In front of the national media, Shirley exposed her extramarital affair with Leo for 6 months, instantly topping the hot searches. We hadn't announced the divorce yet to ensure Leo's smooth comeback. Leo's most enduring public persona in sports collapsed due to the affair, causing a significant backlash. He was boycotted by all fans, leading to the removal of the products he endorsed due to complaints by users online. Leo faced enormous compensation as a consequence. As the victimized wife, even though the company continued to use Leo's endorsement, casual fans replaced their support with purchases, resulting in a 4-fold increase in sales. The executive was concerned that if they failed to replace Leo soon, the company's reputation might rapidly decline. They had to seek my approval. This time, I didn't hesitate. Change. It's been 2 days since I returned to my country. Leo is still trending on social media. Watching it, I can't help feeling a sense of melancholy. Who would have thought that Leo's future would crumble in Shirley's hands? Everyone's choices have already been priced, and when the bill comes due, no one can dodge it. Shirley was fired, and her father, the station manager, is under investigation. Leo is now shut out from all teams and competitions. Compensating for the losses to the brand partners has depleted all his savings. He can no longer waste away idly as before and must fight his way out. With his sports career blocked, Leo wanted to transition into coaching. The tennis team was hesitant due to his character, and his online teaching sessions were reported and resulted in account suspension. His former best teammates distanced themselves from him. In interviews, one after another subtly used Leo and Shirley's gossip to attract attention. My former in-laws came to my company, asking me to speak up for Leo. My choice was clear: to refuse. Fairness lies in people's hearts, not in my words of false peace. Leo is an adult. He is responsible for his own choices in life. Since parting ways with Leo, we should become two parallel lines and strive to find the right path again. The company spokesperson finally confirmed the young rising star who just won the Wimbledon Grand Slam. Standing in the office, I watched as Leo's endorsement advertisement across the street was being replaced. Lost in thought, I had already finished the whole cup of coffee. Just as I was about to sit down to review the design drafts, I noticed a figure standing downstairs from the company building. Despite his tall and imposing figure, his shadow on the ground looked worn down. It was Leo. He glanced at the posters rolled up haphazardly by the workers, then looked up at the 20-year-old rising star hanging high. When I first met Leo, he was only 20 years old, full of vitality and not afraid of failure or rejection. He entered my world boldly, like a knight with flowers in hand. At 29, Leo was like a flower withering in the fall. Ahead of him awaited the harsh winter. Only by enduring it could he bloom again one day. Leo looked over from a distance. It was as if he saw my presence through the steel and concrete. He waved and turned to leave. I averted my gaze and began working, but hesitated slightly as I flipped through the drafts. Goodbye, Leo. It was 3 years later when I realized that no matter how deep the pain, there would be a day of healing. This time, as one of the sponsors of the Tennis Open, I was invited to attend the opening ceremony. Leo was a volunteer, guiding people around with such skill that it seemed like he had done it many times before. I entered the wrong entrance and stood at the end of a crowded walkway, but he looked up and saw me immediately. Leo paused for a moment, then came over to lead me. "How is your health?" I nodded and followed Leo's lead towards the front row seats, within the safe space of his outstretched arms. Out of courtesy, I asked about his recent situation. Leo said he mainly volunteers at major events now and sometimes provides live commentary for the audience during matches. Few people recognize him as the youngest Asian Grand Slam winner. The sports outfit under Leo's volunteer vest looked old, and I could tell it was the one I designed for him years ago. After paying a huge breach of contract to the brand, he had exhausted his assets. Leo tentatively asked if I could help him find a job. With my resources now, finding a job is not difficult. The challenge lies in the identity and reasons. If your past honors are not enough to decorate your resume, can I use my status as Linda's ex-husband? I'm sorry, Leo. I'm afraid my fiance might misunderstand. The news of my engagement to the head of a top sports brand had trended a while back. Leo must have seen it. Unlike the rumored commercial alliance, our relationship had a different purpose. We were simply attracted to each other and ended up together. I am grateful that I did not lose the courage to love again. Leo's eyes darkened for a moment, and it took several calls from his colleagues behind him before he snapped out of it. As he was leaving, he said, "Best wishes to you, Linda." The opening ceremony started, and the music drowned out whatever Leo wanted to say next. I hope it was a belated apology, and thus, our grievances were resolved.